What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Cly, and welcome to a little bit of an update video as well as what is potentially the first episode of a new series. I say potentially not in that I'm not creating a new series, but we'll see if I actually count this as part of said series. So, first off, I want to say sorry for being so inactive recently. I actually find it kind of humorous because I recently said that I wanted to get back to 2 videos a week, and then I disappeared for 2 weeks, made a video, and then disappeared for several more weeks. Kind of failed at my goal. But there's a few reasons. First off, I've just been spending a lot of time working on the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I actually really like how things are turning out. So the way this all started, I sat down to edit a chainmail tutorial video, which I will go ahead and say it is getting scrapped because I actually found a better way to record and get a point across that I was trying to make, so that's been put on the back burner for a bit. But when I sat down to record it, turns out the license for my video editing software had expired. And that's not fun. So I was using a program called VSDC. And originally it was a free video editor, which is how I got my hands on it the first time, and how I got, I wouldn't say proficient, but I got to where I could edit a video relatively quickly. And then a little over a year ago, they put some of the most important features behind a paywall. And that's not good. So fortunately, I did end up getting a key for the premium version in a giveaway on, I believe it was CNET, and that's a $20 value. They want $20 a year to use a very basic level program to its full potential. And I don't feel like paying it. Fortunately, not too long ago, HumbleBundle.com released a bundle, surprise, surprise, that contained Vegas Pro 14 Edit as well as a suite of other programs, all for $20. So for the price of 1 year of VSDC, I get Vegas Pro 14 Edit for as long as I want. Admittedly, it is not the latest version of that software, but it does the job. Even better, Humble Bundle just re-released that bundle, as far as I know. Today is April 12th, 2018. I'm probably going to be putting this video up on April 13th, 2018, and I think there's a few weeks on the timer, so if you want to pick up Vegas Pro 14 Edit for $20 along with a large amount of Magic's music making software, check it out. I give it my approval. But when I ended up getting hit with the, oh yes, renew your license notification, I just kinda didn't feel like doing it. I didn't feel like sitting down and forcing myself to learn Vegas to get a video up that day. Because I'm terrible at this. I do not have a backlog, at least of videos. I do have a backlog of things I want to review and things I want to show off in hauls, but I do not have a video backlog. So typically, I'm recording and editing the day I release, and sometimes that causes a hiccup, like that day. So I went from not wanting to post a video that day to saying, hey, you know what, I'm tired of my old channel art. I'm tired of the way my website looks. I'm tired of the icons that I use as avatars. And I ended up going down the graphical design rabbit hole, which sucks because I have no real graphical design skills, at least as far as I can tell. And I don't have the budget to commission any pieces from artists, so that took way longer than it should have. Fortunately, I did end up making everything I need. I have all of the source files. The backgrounds are infinitely tileable, so I can change things up as I need to. I ended up with a new banner on YouTube, new banner on Twitter, new banner on my website, new avatars all over my social media, and I made sure they fit inside the circle so people can read what it says on social media. And it's also going to end up being the channel art, or no, not channel art, album art. I got to get used to saying that. It's going to be the album art for my podcast when I eventually release it. Because yes, I'm actually still working on that. I recorded what I thought was going to be the first episode in December, and it didn't work out. Mainly because I was still dealing with seasonal depression, and at least I could hear it in my voice in the video. Not video, podcast recording. I gotta get used to these media terms. But I could hear the fact that I just really didn't want to be there in my voice, and it didn't help that I didn't have much practice just talking to a microphone, so I ended up not being able to hold my train of thought for more than 2 minutes at a time, and this was a 30-minute episode that I was trying to pull off. Ended up taking an hour and a half, and I didn't like how it was sounding. Yes, I could have edited it down and fixed everything that I could, but I'm going to have to actually be paying out of pocket to host this thing, because unlike YouTube videos, a podcast is hosted on a dedicated host and then pushed out to iTunes, Google Play, and all these other places. And that costs money typically. I mean, there are free services, but each one I've looked into has a lot of caveats that I don't trust them. Let's just put it that way. I do not trust the bulk of the free services that I've seen. So yeah, I want to make sure when I push out my podcast, it is up to snuff. And because I'm doing this solo, I have the freedom to say, nah, I didn't like that recording. I'm just going to do it again. So eventually I will. Another thing that I'm going to be changing up in regards to the podcast is the audio setup, which is fun because I drove myself crazy tweaking the audio setup. So originally I was planning on using the Audio-Technica AT2020, which, don't get me wrong, it is a great sounding mic, but it does require you to have a relatively quiet area to record in. And every time I plug that sucker in, it's leaf blower o'clock, so not really going to happen. Instead, I am switching up to the Samson Q2U, the mic that I'm actually using in this video, and one that I talked about in a previous video where I found it at a thrift store for $15. If you want to see how I sound with the AT2020, I used that a while back in the video talking about the Twitch update that allows video on demand. One more thing in regard to my podcast, and that actually involves this video, not just because it is audio only with an audio visualizer sitting in front of a static image, which I am planning on doing for every podcast episode that I post on YouTube, but I'm trying something a little bit different. It's not uncommon for a podcast to have what is called episode 0. This is just a little bit of an introductory episode that is meant to get you up to speed when in regard to what their podcast is about. I'm taking it a little bit further. Instead of doing an episode 0, I'm going to do a season 0. And this might as well be episode 0 of season 0 of the Thrifter's Guide to Geekery. Basically, I am going to take and make a little bit of an audio blog about the process that I'm undertaking to make the Thrifter's Guide to Geekery a reality. Because like I said, I don't feel the podcast proper is up to snuff for me to actually pay money out of pocket to host it anywhere. So instead, I'm just going to talk about what I'm doing to make it happen and post it here on my YouTube channel for all of my subscribers to check out if they're interested in such a thing, as well as potentially get some new listeners that might be a little bit hyped, because it turns out the podcast keyword is actually gaining some traction on YouTube. It has been for a while, and it's hilarious because a lot of the how to start a podcast guides tell you not to post them on YouTube. Well, let's see how that works out for me, huh? Actually, I do want to see how that works out for me, because that'll be a great metric to use as a how-to guide for starting a podcast. And the season 0 is actually going to basically be mini episodes of how to start a podcast on a budget, because I'm doing all of this stuff as cheap as possible to make it sound at least halfway decent. And I think that pretty much covers the bulk of what's been going on. I do want to get back to trying my best to make twice weekly videos, and now I have a bit of a cheat in the fact that I'm going to be doing potentially once a week. I'm going to try it on Mondays, get one of these videos up from now on. Even after I launch my podcast, I'm still going to have this series around. It's just going to be called something slightly different, because once season 1 has been launched, you don't really need to keep continuing season 0. Then you're dividing by 0, the whole universe implodes, and nobody wants that. So, Mondays, I'm going to try to have an episode of Season 0 of the Thrifter's Guide to Geekery up, and then on Fridays, I'm going to try to have just one of my standard videos, be it a thrift haul, DIY video, cheap tech review, or... I hate to think about it, but I'm actually going to try to get the cheap food reviews back and do something a little bit better. I didn't like the way I executed it last time, but I've got some ideas now. And that pretty much covers it. So, until next time, this is your guy, Cly, signing off.